Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to today's session on our experience sharing about the journey we did to transition our IT associate from a legacy landscape to Odoo. Is the sound okay? Can you hear us good? All good. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Maximilien Mos, the head of IT within the Eggo group.
And I'm Benjamin Baudard, and I'm tech lead in Eggo.
Alors, maybe first of all, why such a topic? Because I can imagine that many companies face or are facing the same challenges from moving from one technology standard to another. And when you are faced to such a decision, one main element linked to that is what do you do with the IT resources supporting the IT landscape? Obviously, two scenarios appears. One is to say, okay, I can get rid of the resources that I supporting the system at the same time than the IT system themselves. Or another solution is, okay, I'm gonna transform them, transition them from an old or from the old technology to a new one, and asking them, I would say, to evolve along the IT landscape. And that's, you can imagine, the path we have chosen, the path we have followed, and that we are going to share with you. So to set the context, we work for Eggo. Eggo is a company created in 2007, operating in 6 countries. In 6 countries, we just have approximately 80 showrooms, and the business is operated by roughly 600 employees, almost 1,000 if you consider the externals. But what is important is that we do equip on a yearly basis, approximately 20,000 families with interior furnitures, mostly kitchens, but we do have solution for the entire house, and I will come back to that. That represent approximately 180 million euro a year, to give you an idea about the business. We are mostly known for selling kitchens. But as you can see, we try to tend to diverse the gamma of products we offered. We now have solution for the entire house, just mostly wardrobes that have been introduced more recently, but we do have solution for living room, dining room, bathroom. And regarding today, this is what we want to share with you today. First of all, we're gonna set another time the context of the digital transformation, but more focus on a technical point of view. Then we want to share really the transition of the resources, of the internal resources we had, and that is going to be the big piece of today's session. Then finally, the takeaway and the summary that we want to share with you. So, the digital transformation. What is important for you to know is that Eggo is a company that is fully integrated with almost the entire value chain internalized, which means that human resources, accounting, sales operation, logistic, deliveries, customer services, fitting, all of this is done by internal resources. With so many different jobs, you can imagine we used to have many different applications. This historically an IT landscape made of best of breed application. A second very important element is that 1 out of 2 customers entering an Eggo showroom does it because he has been recommended by another customer. And when do you recommend to someone else, a retailer or a brand, is because you have been fully satisfied by the experience. So we definitely need to be excellent in our operations regarding the customer. And we were convinced that to be excellent and relevant toward the customers, first of all, we had to be relevant between ourselves. We really just aimed at building an IT landscape that would be efficient and sustainable. 2 other elements that were important for us. The first one is we wanted to have something that would be open to the ecosystem. By ecosystem, I mean, first of all the external partners involved into our operations. We have fitters, we have logistical partners that we want to be able to interact with, or that we want to be able to connect to our systems. but we also wanted to be able to connect to, I would say, any system located outside the company. This could be the suppliers, it could be the EDI platform, it could be any software as a service solution commonly available on the internet. Regarding the company, we wanted to have something that would bring by itself innovation or differentiation elements, so that we do not always have to invest in those two elements. And we also wanted to have something that would make sense from a career point of view to our associate, and something that would also be sustainable in the long term, dus a sustainable IT landscape. How did we achieve that transformation? So you have a schema of the IT landscape as it was 3 years ago. We divided the implementation into different phases, where basically we migrated the content or the functionality of some application to Odoo per phases. You can see a light green was one phase, dark green was another phase, then the orange was finally a third phase. And via these 3 phases, we migrated all the functionalities to Odoo. Now we have most of the functionality covered by the Odoo application suite. And that Odoo is still connected or interconnected with some other tools, the website, some front office tools, some EDI provider. Front office tools, you have to see it like an AutoCAD-like drawing system made to design furniture. That transition didn't happen at once. It took a bit less than 3 years to achieve it. Initially, we started by all the retail operations, so all the tools and products used by the store associates. Then we had a second phase aimed at then migrating all the support services, all I would say the operations, so logistic, delivery, the fitters, the customer care operations, so really from ordering the product up to the deliveries and fitting. And finally, we ended by migrating the last pieces, the accounting department, the human resource department, and build, I would say, a bridge to our BI environment. What is key in our transformation is that each and every associate within the Eggo business is working with Odoo. So we have one common platform, one common view of the data and of the truth for each and every associate. Alors, the main piece now, the big piece. How did we transition from a legacy to a new system? So this is the IT team available at Eggo, and the IT team that used to support the legacy system. As you can see, it's very diverse. It's diverse both in terms of ages. It's diverse both in terms of profiles. You have self-made developers, you have academic developers, you even have a project manager that wanted to become developers, so really a lot of different profiles to interact with. And if you see their skills, we used to have internally knowledge about PHP, about Java, about COBOL, but you don't see any Python or I would say any Odoo knowledge. So none of us had basically any idea on how was supposed to work the Odoo framework or the Odoo language. And that's the starting elements, the starting team with which we initiated the journey.
So thank you, Max, to present us. This represents the mood evolution of the technical team during the different project phases. Initially, we were a bit surprised and not so in favor of moving the technology stack. But we decided to give it a chance. The light increase of the mood during the phase 1. After the phase 1 moved to production, it was the cold shower. We have no time to be in Odoo. And because we were only in the legacy systems, remaining true during the phase 2. And some of us even considered quitting the company. And you can easily imagine how the level of the mood we had. Hopefully, during the third phase, we learn and we make our first request in Odoo. And this continued during all the upgrade and during the extension of of the other business unit of the groups. So let's see why it was so difficult. It's a combination of the human and technical elements. From the human's perspective, we start questioning of moving for a new tool and a new languages. We had to be ready, a bit obliged to learn to leave some things we liked and we mastered. To learn something completely new for us and to get rid our past technical experiences. Then we have a strong frustration. Why? Because we are not able to develop and implement requests as fast as we can before. We need Odoo help. And the most difficult one is we have to put our pride aside. From the technical side now, we have no time to develop in Odoo. We are completely stuck in the legacy system for the support, the maintenance, and the data migration. Loss of confidence and willingness as technical evolution came slower. And of course, we study new languages, so we have the feeling to have become a new junior developer, as we were senior before, and we continually to need support from Odoo. And Odoo was not so easy to learn. Let's see why. We divide it in 3 parts: languages, tool, and code. As Mark said, nobody in the team knew Odoo. As I said, new tool, new languages. We have to learn Python and the Odoo framework. Some of us like to develop new apps from scratch, and now we have to build with a framework. For the UX UI interface, it's the same. You have to learn JavaScript and the whole framework. For some requests, and normally it's not supposed to be to open the black box of the ORM, but it was needed. On top of that, we have 2 new softwares, PyCharm and GitKraken. About the code, as you know, as everywhere else, the code is clean but uncommented, and it was very difficult for us to understand it. And there is a lot of documentation for the functional part, but for the technical one, it's more than less. And to complete, some of us, me for example, I was mastered in accounting, so I have one expert domain, and now we have to be multi-domain, and to be able to support the entire value chain.
Alors, how did we envisage and how did we, I would say, basically train the resources? Initially, we went for self-documentation. So the idea was to ask the team to look for tutorials available online, to read some books, to practice some exercise. That's really convenient because there are plenty available online. You can do it whenever you want. But the cons is that actually it's highly dependent on the goodwill of the developers, and they also need to find the time to work on it. But it wasn't that a success, but we will come back to that afterwards. Then we went for more technical training organized by Odoo partners. That was actually better because we could, I would say, go more into the concrete Odoo framework. But it was still too general. So working, with the usual exercise that you will find. So at least they would start practicing Odoo, but it was still way too, I would say, blurry to be able to take over any concrete development required in the project phase or in the development maintenance. We then asked Odoo, which is responsible for the implementation at Eggo, but to train the teams. So we did a bit a similar exercise, but this time it was much more concrete because that would be based on our code base, and we were just talking about more concrete facts. But still, and I will come back to that afterwards, that wasn't enough. So we then went for another approach. It was to onboard a trainer within the team. Um, and that is really important, that word, trainer, because basically we ask a developer to come and integrate the Eggo team, but not to generate any code. That was really clear in his mission. His mission was to support our developer in achieving their own tickets. And actually, that worked, and that was the best leverage we had to increase the team skills and productivity. One very interesting element that we want to share with you is the fifth one, and because it was unexpected. It's the fact that at a certain moment of time, when the team start to grow in skills, you can find support, I would say, and knowledge internally within the team. And so some answers are now provided within the team, and we no longer need for an external help. And that's really, I would say, a positive cycle. How did we plan that through the different phases? You can see that initially we had maybe the illusion that self-documentation would do the job, that by asking the developer to get some Odoo knowledge, that would work. But actually that didn't, and we will explain why. Then during the second phase, where you see the mood really was really bad, we went for this training on top of the self-documentation, but still that wasn't sufficient to take over any concrete responsibility as from the phase 3. And it's only as from the moment where we onboarded the trainer that we really see the major progresses within the team capacity, within the team skills, and without our capacity to develop. So trainer that was then, I would say, also supported, or the team that was also supported by the added value that the team skills and productivity would bring by itself. When you see the previous slide, if you remember, you can say, but it's obvious, why haven't you done that before and hired someone earlier, a trainer or whatsoever? Why did you wait 2 years to basically have your resources being, to train them more efficiently? And the reason is really simple. They had no time. Let's take the assumption that you need, your resources would need 50% of their time dedicated to training themselves. Their availability was close to zero, because fully dedicated to maintaining the tools that still support the operations, but also to integrate them with Odoo or with the external world, or to work on the historical data migration. So it's only when the tools were fully decommissioned, no longer used for any production mean, that the availability started to appear. And then there was a kind of a too late effect, because okay, the guys were ready to support Odoo, but they didn't take part to the code development, so they didn't know the code, and they didn't have the skill yet. So it's only, I would say, 1 year later that both conditions were met. Availability was there, skills were there again, and we could then spend our times on concretely maintaining Odoo.
Thank you, Max. So, as Max said, we have time to develop now. But how do we organize the process with Odoo from the ideation to the move to production of a request? The two first stage, the ideation and the functional analysis, is made internally. Historically, for each request, we had a challenge by Odoo, but it's not longer the case. Why? Because our business analysts are Odoo certified now. When the analysis is done, a dev from Eggo or from Odoo can take it and make it. If one of the Eggo team is in the crowd today, we make a small review together to grow up our skills. But the final words of this review is for Odoo. Why? Because they are contractually maintain our code. The code is good, and the last part, unit testing, integration, and move to production, I also made internally. Okay. Now the figure. So here you have two graphs, and they represent the amount of requests made during 3 years by month until yesterday. On the top, you have the measure in absolute measure, and on the bottom, you have in percentage. The color, naturally, Odoo is in purple, and Eggo is in yellow. As you can see, during about 2 years, Odoo performed all the requests. But it's only at the mid of August 2023, when we get rid the legacy system, that we can proudly make our first request. And so they continue, the trends continue to grow up. And now we are able to implement between 1/3 and 1/2 of all the tickets. If you remember the mood board at the beginning, we were far, far away from what we achieved.
So this is it. To summarize a bit the session we had today, the key element we wanted to share with you. The first one is that training can only happen if upon full availability of your technical resources, and if it can be continuous in time. So you have seen that as long as you need to maintain legacy systems, you won't have, I would say, any time to do it concretely or seriously. So better to wait to have the time to focus and allocate your resources to that task specifically. Second element, even when that's a shift and that the availability is there, training the resources takes longer, at least longer than what we expected. So you have seen that after 1 year, the team has the feeling to have reached like 50% of the skills they would like to acquire, like 50% of the efficiency they aim to reach. That's not an issue in itself. It's more that it has to be clear to manage the expectation both of the internal resources you would like to transition, and I would say also both of your business, because they need to be aware that it takes time and that you're gonna need time to recover the same velocity for achieving evolutive maintenance of the IT landscape. Bringing a trainer within the team was actually for us the best leverage. Well, it's relatively expensive versus the other options, but that really the one that initiated and that enabled the team to grow up in skills and in efficiency. Transitioning an entire team was for us an opportunity. So today we focused on the developers, but we also have functional analysts. But every time that you need to do something with the team, you started to have that mutual support, that gamification of even competition spirit to achieve tickets implementation, to bring support to the other, to increase the knowledge internally. So really it's key. The most person you can transition internally, the better. And last but not least, we didn't face any reluctances from Odoo to achieve this. So we could have thought, okay, they are in charge of the maintenance, they will want to take it at their end. But although we had very diverse profiles, we didn't face any reluctancy to achieve this. It's not a target for us, if you remember the slide of Benjamin, to reach 100% of the tickets implemented internally. It's not the idea. We have already recovered part of our autonomy, and we will always stick with some Odoo resources, I would say, for the main strategical decision about implementing a new app or about some, I would say, strategical, technical decision. So achieving 100% is not a target for us. It's not an objective as such. And my last word will be for the teams. So I would like to thank Benjamin, Alexandre, Gigi and Eric that are following remotely today for having accepted the challenge to transition, I would say, their skills and even their career towards Odoo, but also to have succeeded in it. So thanks, Mala.
From the technical team, we would like to say to your confidence of us.
That was it. I don't know if we have time for questions.
5.
2 questions or 2 minutes?
On a une petite minute de retard.
Thank you for sharing your stories, Team Eggo.
I don't hear.
Actually have a
Any
few
questions?
T'entends, toi?
Non.
Can you hear me?
Mais de toute façon, on n'a pas le retour et on n'a pas de casque. Hein.
Is it okay? Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story, Team Eggo. So we do have a few questions here. So the first being, how many lines of code do you use in Odoo, and what is the yearly payment for this?
So far we have approximately 40,000 lines of code. The maintenance is well known for Odoo. If I remember correctly, it's 16 euro per 100 lines of code, so you can do the math. It's a bit less than 1,000 euro a year for the maintenance.
All right, thank you. And next, how does Odoo support the consolidation for 6 countries?
Alors, so far we have achieved the Belgium implementation. We are now working towards the second slide, the implementation in the second business unit. And so I would say we have a kind of a tree structure of the repository with some elements and codes that are common to all the different business units, and then some specific repositories for the local business unit. So high level, that's the architecture we have, but one common code that is common to all the business unit, and then some specific element.
But one precision, we are also do the Luxembourg and Belgium.
Right, thank you. How long did it take you to upgrade?
How long?
7 months, huh?
Yes, 7 months.
We started in December and we went live in June. So exactly 7 months.
Okay.
We upgrade from version 14 to the version 17.
Gotcha. And do you work with an Odoo partner or directly with Odoo?
Directly with Odoo.
Right. And how much time have you exceeded from your initial expectation?
In terms of roadmap, actually, we didn't divert from the initial plan. So we had the plan to do the full transition in 5 years, including the upgrade, and we are going to meet it because by end of next year we will have finalized the transition of the different business units. So we had a budget and a timeline of 5 years, and we're gonna basically jump into that.
Thank you. And lastly, I believe I have. Did you consider to recruit Odoo resources at the beginning of Odoo project?
I would say no, because really what we wanted is to transition the existing IT teams because the potential was there. We are still not, it might happen at a certain moment of time that there are that much work that we will have to, but really the idea is to start by the existing resources. So that's not an option we considered seriously.
All right. Thank you. And I think that's all.
That's all?
Thank you.
All good. Needed. Just next to